A single unassuming warehouse in rural Pennsylvania recently took delivery of 1.2 million used books. They weren't for resale for a library or for a collector. Instead, these books were immediately sorted, scanned, and then, for the vast majority, shredded. This isn't an isolated incident. Across the United States, and increasingly globally, AI development companies are quietly acquiring physical books by the truckload, sometimes 1 million volumes at a time, extracting their contents and then discarding the originals. The scale is staggering, and it's driven by a problem the artificial intelligence industry created for itself. You see, the internet, which was once the boundless wellspring of information for training large language models, is increasingly poisoned. The very models that learn from the web are now outputting so much synthetic, AI-generated text that it's contaminating the well. Training a new model on that polluted data leads to a phenomenon known as model collapse. It's like making a photocopy of a photocopy. Each generation loses fidelity, drifts from reality, and becomes less useful. I've dug into the mechanics of this, and the scramble for genuinely clean, human-authored data reveals a surprising bottleneck in an industry overflowing with compute power. It all comes down to 3 fundamental problems: data decay, the limits of synthetic data, and the surprising legal advantage of a physical book. The core issue is data decay. Imagine a large language model as a massive, intricate map of human language and knowledge. To build this map, AI systems analyze vast quantities of text, learning patterns, grammar, facts, and nuances. For years, the open internet was the primary quarry for this raw material. Everything from Wikipedia articles to forum posts, news archives to personal blogs was fair game. But then, as AI models became more accessible, the internet began to change. Suddenly, a significant portion of newly published text wasn't written by humans at all. It was generated by other AI models. This creates a vicious cycle. When a new model is trained on data that includes output from older, less sophisticated AI models, it learns to mimic the imperfections and biases of those earlier systems. Researchers at Cambridge and Oxford published a joint paper in late 2025 describing how successive generations of models trained on increasingly synthetic data begin to forget the true distribution of human language, leading to a loss of complexity and accuracy. They termed this the recurrent generation problem. It's not just about misinformation, it's about the very structure and richness of language itself starting to homogenize and simplify, like a language gradually losing its vocabulary. So why can't AI companies just filter out the synthetic content? The short answer is, it's incredibly difficult, and getting harder every day. Detecting AI-generated text is an arms race. As detection methods improve, so too do the generation methods, making the output indistinguishable from human writing for all but the most sophisticated and often proprietary tools. Even then, an AI-generated paragraph might be incorporated into an otherwise human-written article or edited by a human to mask its origin. The sheer volume of new content makes manual curation impossible. This means that every day, the pool of genuinely pristine, human-authored digital text shrinks relative to the vast ocean of machine-generated words. The reliable, high-quality data that once fueled these models is becoming a scarce resource. This scarcity creates a desperate need for what the industry calls dense, edited, authoritative data. This is text that is guaranteed to be human-written, carefully curated, and rich in complex information. And this is where physical books, printed before roughly 2022, become invaluable. Before the widespread explosion of consumer-facing large language models, the content within these books was almost certainly human-created. They represent a fixed, uncontaminated dataset. Publishers and authors went through editorial processes, ensuring a level of quality and coherence often lacking in vast swaths of internet content. This makes them ideal for training the next generation of AI, providing a clean baseline before the contamination truly took hold. The industry did try to solve this problem with synthetic data. Why not just have AI models generate their own training data? For example, an AI could summarize a complex topic, then expand on it, creating new text. But this approach has a critical flaw. It lacks novelty and real-world grounding. Think of it like a chef who only ever cooks with ingredients made by other chefs, who in turn only used ingredients made by other chefs. Eventually, the connection to the original, raw ingredients, the real flavors, is lost. Research from Google DeepMind in early 2026 demonstrated that models trained exclusively on synthetic data, even if it was high quality, eventually began to hallucinate more frequently and exhibit a phenomenon called mode collapse. This isn't the same as the data decay from polluted internet sources, but rather a narrowing of the model's output diversity. It tends to produce more generic or repetitive responses because it has only learned from its own limited internal imagination, rather than the messy, diverse, and often contradictory richness of actual human experience as expressed in truly original text. It's like an echo chamber for algorithms. Beyond the quality of the data, there's another, more contentious reason AI labs are turning to physical books: copyright. The past few years have seen a torrent of lawsuits against AI companies for copyright infringement. Major authors, news organizations, and artists have filed suit, alleging that their copyrighted works were used without permission to train these powerful models. The settlements are becoming astronomical. Anthropic, for instance, reportedly settled a class action lawsuit filed by authors and publishers for $1.5 billion in April 2026. This figure, confirmed by multiple financial news outlets at the time, represents a significant chunk of change even for well-funded AI labs. By acquiring physical books, AI companies aim to sidestep some of these legal minefields. While the act of scanning a copyrighted book could still be challenged, the argument becomes more nuanced than simply scraping entire shadow libraries of pirated digital content. The physical acquisition and controlled digitization of books, especially out-of-print or obscure titles, offers a path to cleaner data with a potentially stronger legal footing. It suggests a more deliberate, curated approach, rather than wholesale appropriation of digital works. It's a risk mitigation strategy, albeit an expensive one. This desperate need for clean, pre-AI boom data has spawned a surprisingly analog cottage industry. Brokers like ISBN-DB, traditionally known for providing book data to libraries and retailers, are now pivoting to facilitate bulk purchases for AI companies. They work with used bookstores, library discards, and even specialized liquidation firms to source millions of books. These aren't just any books. The emphasis is on non-fiction, academic texts, and carefully edited fiction, anything that represents a high density of information and a low probability of AI contamination. It's a strange reversal of the digital age. An industry built on the cutting edge of computation is now literally digging through stacks of paper to find its sustenance. The logistics are immense. Warehouses are set up with high-speed, specialized scanning equipment. Optical character recognition, or OCR, is employed to convert the physical text into digital files. This process is far more involved than simply downloading a PDF. It requires sophisticated image processing to handle varying paper quality, fonts, and potential damage to the books. Each scanned page is then often put through quality control, sometimes by human reviewers, to ensure the digital text is accurate and complete. Once digitized, the physical books are often shredded or recycled, as storing millions of physical copies indefinitely is impractical and expensive. The goal is the data, not the artifact. Consider the absurdity of the situation. We have an industry that commands more raw computing power than ever before, with access to supercomputers capable of trillions of operations per second. Yet, its fundamental progress is being held back by the finite supply of something as low-tech as pre-2022 printed matter. This isn't a problem of processing speed or algorithmic efficiency. It's a problem of data purity and scarcity. The very foundational material that makes AI intelligent is dwindling in its digital form. The demand for these physical books is driving up prices in the second-hand market, sometimes to extreme levels for specific, highly sought-after categories. Used bookstores that once sold paperbacks for a few dollars are now moving entire pallets of books for thousands. This sudden, unprecedented demand has caught many in the traditional book market off guard as they grapple with the implications of an entirely new kind of buyer with an entirely different purpose for their inventory. It's a gold rush for dead trees as the bedrock of human knowledge becomes the essential fuel for artificial minds. This situation highlights a profound irony. The digital revolution promised to make information infinitely reproducible and accessible. Yet, the very act of digitizing and democratizing information has, in a strange twist, led to its degradation when processed at scale by AI. The unique qualities of human authorship, creativity, critical thinking, and the messy, unpredictable nature of real-world expression are proving to be irreplaceable, and for now, the most reliable source of that unique human imprint remains bound within millions of pages of ink and paper. Ultimately, this race to digitize and destroy books isn't just about training better AI models. It's about preserving the integrity of the data that defines human understanding itself. if AI models continue to learn from their own reflections. The resulting intelligence risks becoming an echo chamber detached from the rich, complex, and sometimes chaotic reality of human knowledge. The fate of future AI, and perhaps our own digital intellectual landscape, is currently being decided in warehouses full of discarded books. And yes, this is completely legal. If you want to understand more about the invisible systems shaping our digital world, hit that subscribe button. A nonfiction book from publishers like Simon & Schuster embodies thousands of human hours of research and editorial review, often exceeding $100,000. This pre-vetted intellectual rigor is what AI companies acquire, sometimes for mere cents per pound, literally buying the ghosts of human labor to build future AI. In one recent example, a single processing center in Ohio digitized over 2.5 million unique pre-2022 books in just 6 months, each volume contributing to a dataset that can never be regenerated once shredded. This rapid, irreversible consumption of physical knowledge is happening at a scale unseen since the Library of Alexandria burned. Subscribe to Loop Back, and the next video is waiting for you on screen right now.